President Trump has now signed the bill to prevent a shutdown while also declaring a national emergency so he can try to route billions from elsewhere in our government to his wall, which, to be fair, Mexico was supposed to pay for. Before leaving for Florida for the weekend, Trump explained his decision in a morning Rose Garden event that went off the rails rather quickly.
We will have a national emergency, and we will then be sued, and they will sue us in the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there, and we will possibly get a bad ruling, and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then we'll end up in the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake, and we'll win in the Supreme Court. Just like the ban, they sued us in the Ninth Circuit, and we lost, and then we lost in the appellate division, and then we went to the Supreme Court, and we won.
Moments later, in his answer to a question from our own Peter Alexander, he directly undercut his own argument and the urgency for a national emergency.
I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster. And I don't have to do it for the election. I've already done a lot of wall for the election, 2020. And the only reason we're up here talking about this is because of the election.
That prompted former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neil Katyal to post this, and we quote, "Trump just said, I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster. Whatever a national emergency may be, that's not it." That quote is going right in the lawsuit. And earlier today, former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance agreed the president's own words, just right there in an instant, will likely mean big trouble for the president.
Now here we've got the president himself essentially saying it's not a national emergency. And every lawyer will pick up on that. And Trump may think that they're going to go to the Ninth Circuit, the most liberal circuit in the country. There will undoubtedly be cases there. But there's at least one case in progress on the Texas border. That's in the Fifth Circuit, one of the very conservative circuits that exists in the Deep South. I expect that they will succeed there as well, and the president will have only himself to thank for their victory.
The ACLU, for its part, says it'll be filing a lawsuit next week challenging the president's emergency declaration. And Texas Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro promises to introduce a resolution to try to block Trump's emergency declaration. For more here tonight, we're joined by Jonathan Allen, the veteran political journalist who is our NBC News national political reporter. We welcome to the broadcast tonight Emily Cochran, who happens to cover Capitol Hill for the New York Times. And back with us this evening, Franco Ordonez, White House correspondent for McClatchy newspapers, covering immigration and foreign affairs in his spare time, among other topics. Welcome to you all. Hey, John, I want to read you something from the Washington Post tonight. Here it is. White House lawyers, including White House counsel Pat Cipollone, had repeatedly warned Trump of the legal risks of proceeding. On Friday, some White House lawyers were frustrated and still skeptical of the commander-in-chief's rationale. 2 points here, John. This leaked from the Office of White House Counsel. What does that tell you? And number two, it happened because the president made it happen. What's the after-action damage assessment tonight?
I think there's serious damage to the president's case from his words. I think there is a serious separation of powers issue here. We're going to watch Congress vote on this. Likely, Joaquin Castro, as you mentioned, the congressman from Texas, will bring up this resolution to terminate the emergency. The Senate will have 18 days. If the House passes that, the Senate will have 18 days to either vote on it or vote to not have a vote on it. So you're going to see votes put up in Congress likely in the next 3 weeks. But in addition to that, Brian, I would just note the president has been making the case that there is a national emergency on the border for the last several weeks during the shutdown, and Congress then acted. Congress appropriated money, and they said, here, you have $1.375 billion to build 55 miles of fence. No more, no less. And so when you look at the National Emergencies Act, the reason that that exists is the idea that there might be an attack on the country or a natural disaster, and that the Congress would not have time to react to that. The president ought to be able to spend money to react to things like that between appropriation seasons. In this case, he made that case for an emergency. Congress denied him the funds that he sought, that $5.7 billion, and now he's going to go ahead and take existing appropriations to try to get done what he wants to do. I think you're going to see, I know you're going to see an aggressive effort to fight him in the courts. There's going to be a fight in Congress, and we'll have to see where the legal lines are here. But obviously, the president and the Congress agree that this isn't an emergency, that there wasn't an urgency here, as he said in the Rose Garden today.
Hey, Emily, John talks about a fight in Congress, but it's fair to ask, because we've become a little frosty and cynical on this topic over the past 2 years, what are they really likely to do?
I think it's fair to say that there will be some Republicans who join Democrats in voting for this resolution. There is some concern about the breach of executive power, that they're overstepping what Congress was meant to do. That being said, the president would be likely to veto such a resolution, and I think it would be a lot harder to get a 2/3 majority to overturn that.
Hey, Franco, did Trump misplay the timing here, among other things? Say nothing of the fact that had he gone for a deal, what is it, a year ago, it would have been perhaps $25 billion, thereabouts?
Absolutely. I mean, Democrats were all for that. They were for that deal, but Trump backed away and said no. I mean, and just a few weeks ago, again, before the shutdown, they had more money on the table for the border wall, and again, Trump said no at the last minute, among criticism from his the right wing. So he's had several chances to do it. It's funny because we're hearing reports now that he's trying to talk to some in the conservative media, trying to get them to kind of change the narrative that this is a better off deal than he would have had. But that's certainly not the case.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.